That there is going to tell me how much I have to fuck around to find out what I need to find out. See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
What's up, everyone? It's cold today, huh? Get down into some of these issues on our mind. But it is quite cold today. It's like 32 degrees, 33 degrees right now. Freezing for me, perfect for whiskey. He loves it. Me, on the other hand, I'd like to set the whole town on fire just to get some heat. Of course, you can see I'm well dressed for it. All my good winter clothes are, who knows where by now, right? Thanks to our local sheriff's office, who, Douglas Ingo, the piece of shit whose job it is to protect us, the people, from corrupt corporations and corrupt government activities, instead of doing his job, finding out where my shit is, which he knows exactly where it's at, doing it on the purpose. I get to freeze my ass off, right? Your day's coming, Mr. Ingle, you piece of POS. Anyways, before I get started too far, I've probably said it once before, but I want to say it again. You know, I'm not on here to pick a favorite, one sex over the other, right? To say one's better than the other, whatever. I'm not here to bash on women, cut on women, right? But I am here always to point out the elephant in the room that nobody wants to speak of. And the things that we truly don't want to face, right? We can cut on men all day long, and I got no problem doing that when they deserve it, because men, these days, men are trash anyway, right? They really are disgusting. And overall, right? That's the way society has gone. But what about women? We never want to point out when they're in the wrong. I've said that once before, right? Especially a lot of these major cases with like Diddy and Epstein, and those dudes are pieces of shit for sure. Whiskey drags us where he wants to go. Anyways, and I realize my band, let me see if I can fix this. I'm not purposely trying to cover my eyes, I'm trying to cover my ears. And it's probably not a good idea to be out here with wet hair. Anyways, right? So they deserve no slack. But we don't want to ever discuss the wrongs of women, right? It's always the men who are in the wrong. It's always the man's fault. And never the woman, right? It's always the woman is mistreated and, stuff like that. And I know there are mistreated women out there. And I'm not trying to say there aren't any good women. But, the fact of the matter is, a woman's heart is easy for Satan. And that leads right to the very beginning of time. Whether we want to face it or not, those who do want to face it will find the easier path to heaven. Those who don't want to face it are going to ignore the facts and the truth. You're never going to understand what's really going on, right? Satan has such a great plan, and he works through the people all around us every day. And from the beginning of time, his easiest target was a woman's heart. And that's just the truth, right? He knew in order to get humans to bite from that tree of knowledge of good and evil was to first go after the woman's heart. because therefore the woman could get to the man's heart. Now, I realize this day and age, that's not always, especially now we're trying to mix the sexes and all that, all this trans shit and all that, right? And the fact of the matter is, ever since you boys started wearing skinny jeans, men ain't fucking men anymore. And that's for sure. They're just as, every bit of a woman. But sometimes we got to consider this stuff, right? I see, and I've seen it several times, right? Posted, and maybe even by friends on Facebook or whatever. But, of course, a woman's attitude is that the man's always wrong. A woman can't face her own problems. A lot of men can't either, I realize that. But this is the overall fact. And I see this post that says, raise your boys to grow up to be good men. Raise them right. Something along that lines. I'll see if I can find it and put a screenshot up. But raise your boys to be good men, to be catering to women, pretty much is what they're saying, right? Because what you don't see anywhere is anything that says, raise your daughters to be good women. Raise your daughters to be good for men, right? No, it's raise your boys to grow up to be good to the women, right? Nothing about let's raise our daughters to be good women, right? To understand what a good woman is, to be godly women. And to give you a little bit of where I'm coming from on this, why would that kind of trigger me, right? Or trigger some thoughts there? Well, to begin with, and by all means, the women, that are, like I said, I'm not trying to cut on any one or the other worse than the other, right? But, you can always leave your thoughts in the comments. If you disagree, I can handle people disagreeing. Let me know your thoughts, right? If you disagree and why you disagree. But hold on a minute. Okay, anyway, Vatos. You gotta put stuff into proper perspective. Let's consider someone my age, the way we grew up is majorly, I was fortunate enough, but a lot of people grew up without their dad, right? Without a father figure. And some had stepdads or whatever that were pretty good dudes, and some had stepdads that weren't, right? But the majority of those kinds of cases were the dad was absent, right? Not the mother. Now that started to change, especially, I can testify to that because sadly, my son had to grow up without a mother. And it's, it is what it is. But even if we're going to get technical about it, whiskey understands all about that. About the mother leaving, right? And what am I getting at with that? Hold on. So, you got to consider that, right? So when we got this generation of people coming out, make sure you raise your sons to be good men for the women. Well, who are we putting the blame on there, right? You were raised by women, most of you, right? And I'm not trying to cut anyone's mom down, but I want to take it from a perspective of me. I had both my parents, but dad was working a lot, right? And so mom did a lot of most of the raising, right? You think my mom raised her boys to be shitty to men? Absolutely not. Or shitty to women? Absolutely not, right? And so that's where I'm getting at with, so a lot of these, in my generation, people grew up fatherless homes. The mother was raising the sons. So who you putting the blame at, right? Trying to tell the men to raise your sons to be good to women. How about women? You raise your children to be good people, period, right? And that's, like I said, I understand that stuff kind of changed. I had my son, there was similar cases, but the fact of the matter is it was more rare that the mom wasn't involved. What am I getting at there? It's pretty self-explanatory, right? For generations, right? Well, but now it's becoming more common that there's single dads out there, because we've built a society that leaves women blameless. And it was going on in my generation, and now it's bled over to the point where now we have women leaving the children, right? Mothers leaving the scene. That's worse than being fatherless. That's just the fact. And, like I said, it was kind of rare. It was a little more rare when it started, in the time that I was raising my son. But, through that time, it started becoming more and more. I started meeting more and more dudes that was raising the children, and the mother was gone, running off, being a whore, running off partying, right? But we can't face that, right? There's no post out there. There's no group of women out there saying, women, step up and raise your children properly. Women, raise your daughters to be good women. And that's just a fact, and that's a problem, right? Because I've met plenty enough of them that weren't raised properly to be good women, or had no good examples of what a good woman is. I'm saying, not to say they grow up to become necessarily bad women, right? But more than you would think. They don't got no good role models. And a lot of times both parents are at fault for that. So, the fact of the matter is, we got, a lot of females grew up fatherless homes as well, right? So, and many times, but, whatever, in my generation, it was always the man's fault. Growing up, overall, it was considered the man's fault. Women were precious jewels. But the fact of the matter is, so they were growing up in fatherless homes with mothers that have some kind of animosity towards their exes, right? Towards the dads. So they grow up in all this bullshit. You end up meeting them, getting in a relationship with them. You come from a home that family sticks together, and whatever the rough times are, we'll get through it, right? Well, you don't get that back from the women, because they didn't have a good male role model, or a role model of a mother that knew how to take care of her man. And, but like I said, of course, some of the men, not all the men were great or anything like that. So we got a generation of people that don't know how to love. Generation of women that don't know how to love, right? They don't know how to love their man. They don't know how to love their children. Not all of them, of course. And we got the same thing with men. I understand that. But where is it? Where are we holding the women accountable, right? Raise your daughters to learn to be good, loving women, right? God-fearing women. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to put it all on the man, as always. Can't we see by doing this how much we have demanized this world? Right? Men are almost obsolete anymore, and what it takes to be a man. That's just a fact. So we got to consider this shit. Before you go posting shit like that, then you better post it the same way around, right? We also need good women in this world, but we're not pointing it out to the women. We're pointing it out only to the men. It's always the man's fault. Well, I will tell you from my own experiences, right? Someone tells you they love you, and that what they mean is they love what you can do for them, And if they got any kind of issue rises, then, they're going to be sneaking around behind your back, but pretending that they hold the moral high ground. This is what it is. I've experienced it. So you can't argue with me on that, right? And I'm not saying all women, but, several of them that I've met, the ones that I've gave my heart to, that's the way it goes, right? Meanwhile, then even when it's gone wrong, they're not gonna let up. They're gonna stand that ground and try everything to make you look bad, because why? They don't want the truth coming out about what they did was wrong. So they're gonna sit here and continue to demonize you, right? And that's just a fact. Oh, you love me so much, do you? You love me forever, do you? Well, until you do something that fucks everything up, and now we just ain't gonna work now, are we? Right? You understood what love was and tried to take the moral high ground and act like I didn't know what love was. But meanwhile, you've left and been with a dozen dudes. And I'm so celibate that the Catholic Church is asking me to come talk to the priest. To give a seminar for the priests, right? I mean, that's just a fact. So, a lot of my stuff lately is, I'm not trying to focus on politics. I'm trying to focus on governmental stuff, our rights, and just us as a society. How do we become better? Well, we become better first and foremost by admitting what the problems are, right? I got no problem that you want to post something up saying, hey, raise your boys to become good men. That's fine. But you better damn well also say, hey, it's up to me to raise my daughters to become good women, right? But we're not going to do that. Satan's plans fall in full in effect. People don't know what love is anymore. And then you got somebody like me. I've been through it enough that I just don't want to deal with it, right? So, meet someone and they're all about trying to get in your pants, and you're like, as soon as you get that, you go nuts, you get all nutty, try to fuck my life up. Well, I don't need that shit, right? Some of us understand love, what it is and what it should be, and therefore we're stuck because it didn't work out the way it's supposed to, right? Because the world ain't clicking the way it's supposed to. And of course, there's also lessons to be learned by men through this, right? There's, from what I've seen, experienced, there's many times men end up in fights, start hating on another man just because he's the ex that you've heard about all this bad shit about, right? So you end up sometimes in fights, or you can't stand somebody who you don't even hardly know, just to find out that at the end of the day, those same stories are going to be told about you, right? We have, as an example, I have one ex that anytime she bumps into me in person, it slips out, oh, you will always be the love of my life. Well, I don't, you're stupid, right? Because if that was the case, your legs wouldn't have been open for business for everybody, right? But, you can look at, it's how people were raised, right? You ain't got no concept. And, it's, right? But, this certain person, had all kinds of fucking shit to spread about me, all kinds of bad shit to say about me to everybody else, which sounded eerily familiar to the two guys before that. And now the Several guys since then, all the fucking same. At what point does it click in your head? The common denominator is me, right? But that ain't the society we live in. We can't make women take accountability for themselves, right? Instead, they could cut you down and everything else and then have enough nerve when they see you to act like, just all kinds of stupid shit, right? It's about holding all of us accountable, right? Raise your boys to grow up to be good men. For your daughters, that's good. But also raise your damn daughters to grow up to be good women, right? We all need to take a step back and take a look at ourselves and see what kind of destruction we do, right? I wouldn't be standing out here freezing my ass off if it wasn't for getting suckered into some fake ass fucking love, right? But let's just put that example into perspective for 1 minute, right? If you telling me that, oh, you'll always be the love of my life, is some way to try to win me over again, well, you're doing it wrong. The proper way is to say, the godly way, the right way, is to say, I was fucking wrong. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Is there any hope, right? But instead, you slip that out, but try to continue like I was the problem. Well, your life stayed exactly the same. Nothing changed. All your relationships were exactly the same with most of my exes, right? What was the common denominator? Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep all of his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. See ya.